Welcome to the Zonos Sports Show, where you know Zonos. All right, today we've got a few standout performances across the weekend that I'd like to touch on. Great weekend in college and NFL football. I do like all the tributes that were done yesterday for September 11th. However, we'll start off with college football. Now, Friday Night Lights. We had that going on this past weekend, but there was no Mike Winchell and no Booby Williams. Now, Louisville won 62 to 28 versus Syracuse. I really like Lamar Showtime Jackson. He had 5 TDs, 1 through the air, 4 rushing, 411 passing yards, 21 carries for 199 yards. Almost was in that 400, 200 club. I really liked the way he played. He had his Heisman highlight moment of the night when he dashes around the 10-yard line and runs towards the pylon and hurdles a defender. Showtime. Those are the plays that are going to win you the Heisman, Lamar Jackson. Not just flicking the ball down to James Quick, not a regular scramble, but those Heisman moments stuck in the air with your legs wide open like a hurdle over a defender, that wins you a Heisman. So I was really pleased to see him carry over that play from the Charlotte game into that Syracuse game and blow them out in the second half. The big stage is on game day next week for Louisville. The defense really needs to improve. They gave up 28 points to Syracuse in the first half. Yeah, they shut them out in the second half. But 28 is a lot of points to give up to a team like Syracuse. And you give up 28 to a team like Florida State, they're going to find a way to score 2 or 3 more touchdowns, as we saw against Ole Miss. So I really like that big stage on College game day for Lamar Jackson to get that national exposure. Lee Corso will be here next week. Reese Davis, all the big shots will be here. That game day game is here in Louisville, so I'm anxious to see how he responds going up against DeAndre Francois and Jesus Wilson, Bobo Wilson, and that whole Florida State defense with Walker there at linebacker. He showed he was a pretty good player this past weekend. Now also, Arkansas versus TCU, 41-38 game, and that ended in OT. Let's see, if this were a classroom, defense would have bad attendance because they were a no-show. I think they had Casper playing DB. I'm not sure who was out there, but it was an up-and-down game. A lot of points given up, as I predicted. I'm pretty sure everybody knew that. Pork tenderloin for Arkansas and Kenny Hill. They scored 21 points. TCU did in the third quarter, but the reason I say pork tenderloin is because it wasn't quite the dish that Kenny Hill ordered, because the Hogs actually came back in that fourth quarter and ended up beating TCU sound in overtime with a touchdown late. So, I call it a sound win because that's a great resume builder on the road for Arkansas to beat TCU. That's a sound victory. So I really like the fact that Austin Allen, who waited behind his brother, outlasted Kenny Hill, the transfer from Texas A&M. Great all-around game, but the defenses for both teams need to get better. Tennessee versus Virginia Tech. I really liked watching this game this week. And as you all know, I did pick Tennessee to win the national championship. I do think they have enough talent to do it. When I look at teams across the board, I like Clemson with a tough game against Troy, and Alabama with a struggle early against Western Kentucky, as well as Georgia's game versus Nicholls State. From what I see, Tennessee has a logistical chance. This isn't something I just made up. They have a logistical chance to win the national championship. So I can't sit here and say that, the pick's done because they struggled against App State. With this game, it was at the Bristol Motor Speedway against Virginia Tech. They won 45-24. The battle at Bristol seated 150,000, largest college football game ever taken in and watched by fans. They had the slow start, but rubber got burning at Bristol for Tennessee, okay? They started off down 14, and they scored 31 unanswered points. Hello, Virginia Tech. Call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need. But anyways, we'll jump back into this because we know they didn't pick up that phone call. I do know that mustard and mayonnaise of the schedule, Texas A&M, the Georgia game, Alabama, Florida, that's all in a 4-game stretch. So those will be the 4 games that will determine Tennessee's season as to whether or not they will go as far as the SEC championship, let alone the playoff. But I really like them responding and playing like the team that people have been predicting them to be since the beginning of the season. Also, upset Central Michigan versus Oklahoma State. They had the illegal extra play. Evidently, Mason Rudolph throws the ball out of bounds with 0 seconds left, but because he was not outside the pocket, they called it an intentional grounding and turned the ball over to Central Michigan, who does an unbelievable, undeniable miracle in a Hail Mary lateral. I'm not sure that ever really works most of the time, but it worked. And also the guy with the dreads, the receiver number 3, almost got hawked at the goal line, didn't score, but he did. So I'm wondering if they're going to change that result because they obviously weren't supposed to have that extra play. So will the NCAA go back and review that and say, oh, we should go ahead and switch that to a victory for Oklahoma State, or will they just leave it as is? I'm anxious to see how that'll work because especially if they weren't supposed to have the play and there was 0 seconds, I don't see why they couldn't change the outcome. Because that's a big determining factor with the college football playoff and that Big 12 race, having Oklahoma State out early, essentially, per Central Michigan. Now we move right along. I do want to talk about a few things. Now we'll millie rock right over to the NFL. Three things we do know: the Browns are still weaker than unsweetened tea. The Jags and Raiders have risen. And Jimmy G got the juice, baby. Now, the Packers played the Jaguars tight, 127-23. They got out with flip-flops and a trench coat, folks. The Jags, I do like the fact that they built a good team with Paul Posluszny from Penn State there at linebacker, as well as you add people like Telvin Smith from Florida State. Then you put Jalen Ramsey on the edge at DB, and at quarterback they've got Blake Bortles. Running back they've got T.J. Yeldon. Receiver they've got the Allen brothers, Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson. I really like the team that they've built there in Jacksonville because it's been a long time since we've seen players like, when we see David Garrard, Byron Leftwich, when we see players like even, I don't think Cecil Shorts is still there. I think he's in Houston, as well as the Fred Taylors of the world. So I'm really glad that Jacksonville, is getting, as well as Maurice Jones-Drew. Don't want to forget him. He's probably one of the top 5 Jaguars of all time. But I do think that it's been good to see them actually build that team. But Gus Bradley, you got to win games now, sir. You got to get those close games. And I'm glad that the Packers won because I am a Packers supporter. So I am pretty glad that Jordy Nelson looked good. But, in other words, we'll go ahead and skip ahead. Great win by the Pack. Showdown in Nolans. The Raiders beat the Saints 35-34, going forward on 2 with Derek Carr. I really like Derek Carr. Derek Carr from Fresno State had the unbeaten season for a while there in college. They found a QB finally. They don't have to deal with the Jamarcus Russells of the world, the Terrell Pryors, the Jason Campbells. They've got a guy who was a winner in college, and he's proven he can be a winner in the NFL. And he's got that slingshot for an arm, so I really like Derek Carr. They need better defense, though. I did pick them in my fantasy picks as sleeper fantasy pick, the Raiders defense, but you can't give up 34 to New Orleans. Come on, Raiders. You got Reggie Nelson back there, and you've got Sean Smith. You've got plenty of pieces back there to make plays in the passing game. So let's do better on that. Also, Malcolm Smith at linebacker returned a Super Bowl interception. You've got people back there who can make plays in the secondary, but they've got to do it. The Cowboys, they lose anyway, of course. No Tony Romo, had Dak Prescott at quarterback. Dak was 25 of 45 with 227 yards, but guess what? No TDs. Dak, you had a good game, sir, but you got to produce. Every time I saw on my phone an update for the score, field goal by Dan Bailey. Field goal by Dan Bailey. So, hey, I might as well upgrade my sleeper pick to Dan Bailey for the week. But, Dak, you got to show more, okay? You got to score in those moments. When you're driving the ball down, you got to punch it in for touchdowns. Dallas has seen far too many field goals over the years. They're used to that with Mr. Romo. Not saying he doesn't score touchdowns, but more often than not, they are kicking a lot of field goals. Dan Bailey is a great fantasy pick every time, every year. I've gotten him before because the Cowboys, that's just what they do. Now, Eli was Eli, had the late TD pass to Victor Cruz. When you look at a Giants score and you see him down at halftime or you see him down late in the game, you know that Eli is going to deliver faster than Jimmy John's. He did throw that touchdown pass that won the Giants the game, so he was him. Field goal life in Big D. I talked about that. We gotta ease up on the field goals and punch in some touchdowns. Okay, Dak Prescott, it's on you. Tony won't be back for a while. Now, the Patriots versus the Cardinals. Patriots find a way to win 23-21. Pretty clean game by both quarterbacks. No interceptions. So, I mean, nobody got their hands too dirty. I do like the way that Carson played late. Almost threw a few costly picks, but his receivers did a great job of playing defense against those balls. Also, LeGarrette Bulldozer Blunt had 70 yards with 1 TD. But when I tell you, those are the hardest run 70 yards that you will see in any game. He is a monster. I really like the way LeGarrette Blunt adds a certain amount of toughness to that Patriots team on offense. I'm not saying they're not a tough team, but having Gronk out and those backups being in there, I do think that they're the ones who will have to LeGarrette's going to be the one who has to stay tough for these next 4 games. Gronk's got the hamstring. Brady's suspended for 4 games. So he's going to have to continue to bring that level of motivation and bring that intensity to the field for his teammates. Larry Fitzgerald had, he's 33 and counting, had a few nice catches on that last drive for Arizona. The kicker blows it. The snap looked a little bad. The holder couldn't put it up there. So I am positive that they're going to work on that this week because, I mean, you can't miss a field goal at home like that at the end of the game to win one. So Bruce Arians, they have a good team this year, but they got a few things to clean up in the kicking game, as well as with certain routes in timing with Carson Palmer, just because there are a few balls that were too tight that almost were in interceptions. So they'll work on that. They'll get better. Other juice, Russell Wilson got hurt. Hope he gets well. Jameis finally famous, beating Atlanta in the Georgia Dome. And Chiefs saved the tribe. They came back down, at least 17 points to the Chargers. I really feel sorry for the Chargers because they've been a team the last 10 years who's been right there but just have never been able to make that jump to a Super Bowl appearance. So Phillip Rivers, great career. Don't know how much longer he'll play, but he's done a lot for that franchise and been a very good draft pick. Regardless of the Super Bowl, he's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, just because of the AFC Championship appearances as well as his completion percentage and his overall play and performance. I really like Phillip Rivers. But Alex Smith came back in overtime, got it done. Now, next show, we'll talk about some Thursday night action and big stories. Now, I'm thinking that we may transition potentially to a Tuesday-Thursday show. I've got to fill that out, but I really like talking to you guys 3 times a week, so we may just keep it as is. But just looking at a few different things, just so you all are aware. Our Monday night football flow, we'll have a double stack of meals. Steelers versus Skins first, and then you got Rams and Niners. I'm really anxious to see Todd Gurley busted wide open, and then Jared Goff sling it around a little bit. I think the Rams have a really good young team, but they're in a tough division there with the Seahawks. So I'm really anxious to see how they perform. Now, also, P.S. Congrats to Stan Wawrinka for beating Novak Djokovic in the U.S. Open. Congratulations to you, sir. I know Novak is a tough guy to play against. Probably right now the Jordan or Kobe of tennis right now. So I do want to congratulate Stan Wawrinka. Now, as far as football goes, we've got through all the opening weekends. Welcome back to college football. We'll do college basketball. We'll do NBA. But for right now, we know it's dominating. And then maybe we'll get some World Series in October and talk about that hunt. Now, thank you for watching the Zono Sports Show, and I'll see you guys next time.